Hey guys, well, it's been 1 month since Valve blessed me with a Steam Deck, and this thing is pretty awesome. So I just wanted to share my thoughts on it so far, my experience, whether or not it is worth having, and how it does with gaming. So let's just jump right into it. So I think the first thing I noticed when I finally got this thing in my hands is that it's really comfortable. I can actually play this thing for more than 30 minutes without having any wrist cramp. In fact, I've done like 6-hour sessions playing Persona 4 with absolutely no problems. Valve did a really good job of making it ergonomic. It feels good. It's a good weight. It's not super heavy. It's not super light and cheap feeling. It feels like a quality product, which I wasn't really sure how it was going to fare, considering this is Valve's first deal, and just kind of the look of it. I would say it's a sleek looking machine, but it definitely looks like the first of something, like the first generation of a gaming console. But this kind of opened a whole new world of gaming to me. I really like strange hardware, and so a handheld PC is very cool. And I'm kind of excited to see where this ends up going, because I like gaming on this thing. I am a PC gamer, mouse and keyboard is great, which, I mean, you can dock it and you can still play it that way if you want, but it's got everything that you need to play your games in a really nice, convenient package. And so the biggest wonder you probably have is, what's it like to game on? What's the performance like? What's the battery life like? Well, let's talk about that.
Well, gaming on the Steam Deck is on par with entry-level PC builds or slightly more powerful than previous generation consoles, so go in expecting a more moderate graphics experience. The good thing is you don't notice these graphical compromises because of the small screen size, and that's okay. I've only had a chance to sample a few games through the first month, but everything that I tried has been a playable experience on a graphical and frame rate level. What makes an unplayable experience is generally input. If a game requires the mouse, like point and clicks in which you need to click something and drag it, the trackpad is pretty limited in range, so if you can't get from point A to point B within that area, you're going to have a bad time. The good thing, though, is that it can play new titles with ease. It surprised me, honestly. Elden Ring runs flawlessly, and even Cyberpunk was a stable experience considering its troubled release. So what does compatibility look like? Well, compatibility is still in the works. As of this recording, 55 of my 192 titles were given the Great On Deck verification. 44 of these titles were playable, and 52 of them were unknown, meaning they haven't been tested yet, and 41 of them were completely unplayable. The big trend in the unplayable ones are multiplayer games. So if you're planning to get a Steam Deck to keep up on your competitive multiplayer games, you're more than likely out of luck. I will say, however, that 4 titles within the month received Great On Deck verification, so it is improving little by little. So let's talk about battery life. It's decent, much better than I expected, honestly. What I experienced is more graphically intense games generally give you around 2.5 to 3 hours of game time. Older or less graphically intense games gave me closer to 7 or more. With some tweaking and system settings, you can achieve better results at the price of performance. I personally haven't used them much other than frame rate capping, but it's nice to have the flexibility. And a very recent update lets you save these settings on a per game level, so you no longer have to reprogram them when you switch to a different game. So my verdict is that when it comes to battery life, it's acceptable, considering its portability. What are the Steam Deck's best features and what needs some improvement? Well, my answer to that question changed over this month. When it first arrived, it had some options for TDP, frame rate, and image scaling to help achieve desired performance and battery life. Steam recently added probably my favorite feature, which I briefly touched on before, is the ability to change the screen's refresh rate on the fly and being able to save game-specific profiles so you don't have to constantly fiddle with settings when changing games. The Steam Deck does not often achieve 60 FPS, especially on newer or graphically heavy games, but it does generally do better than 30 frames per second. Changing the refresh rate to 40 Hz at 40 frames per second makes a surprisingly smoother visual experience. So what still needs some love? I think ultimately if Valve can streamline the process of optimization, it would open the doors for more casual or console crowds and help push forward the interest in a handheld like this. For now, time will tell how much Valve will be willing to go to drive the success of this device in its future, but if they keep it at the rate they're going now, I'm cautiously optimistic.
What have I concluded? Well, the Steam Deck is a very cool piece of hardware. It is within a affordable range. If you want to get into PC gaming, this is a good way to do it without having to assemble a computer yourself. And you can still play with your friends on here for the most part. They're still working out a lot of the anti-cheat multiplayer stuff. This is more for single player experiences at the moment. I think that this particular piece of hardware is for somebody who, it's still kind of a niche thing. It's not plug and play necessarily. It does require some kind of technical know-how or kind of an understanding of getting the best performance out of something, given it is very limited hardware compared to a full-blown PC. So if you aren't necessarily looking for something that requires some tweaking, you're better off with something like a Switch. But you're going to have a lot more flexibility as far as what you can play. Given what I've said today, how would you feel about getting a Steam Deck? Have I convinced you that it's worth it? Or have I just convinced you that it's kind of a niche thing that maybe you'll look over and maybe in the future you'll consider? Comment down below, let me know. I would love to have a conversation about this thing. I will probably do more content on this thing because it's fun, it's different. It's just an interesting time in gaming history having a handheld PC essentially. So yeah, thank you for watching everybody. If you liked the video, hit that like button. Please subscribe. I'm trying to grow this channel, trying to get it off the ground. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you and goodbye.